Welcome to the Living Wholehearted podcast, where we're helping leaders live with integrity.
Whether you're a mom or a CEO, you're a leader, and how you lead matters.
Well, welcome back to the Living Wholehearted podcast. Today we're joined by Bo Stern, and we're happy to have her today. Well, what an amazing conversation we had here in part one, and we are excited to pick it up where we left off with Bo. So welcome back, Bo.
Thank you. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, so Bo, you've shared your story with us, your journey with battling ALS, your husband's battle with ALS, the journey of being a single parent, and your passion for championing women and helping them find their voice. So we are excited to hear more. You know, I was thinking back to kind of some of the statements you were saying in part one, and I wanted to unpack a little bit more the statement you were saying about misunderstanding suffering. What do you think is some of the main misunderstandings? Maybe someone that's new to their faith, or maybe someone that's been in the church for a really long time, or maybe even somebody that's outside the church. What's the misunderstandings that we carry that you feel passionate about restoring and helping us rethink?
Oh, I love that question. I really do. I think that one thing we automatically think about suffering is that we earned it. Like I did something to cause this. And the word suffering, or the Greek word thalipsis in the New Testament, is the word for tribulation. It's when Paul says it's through much suffering that you enter the kingdom of God. That word is used 59 times in the New Testament, and only one time does it speak of suffering being the result of our wrong actions. The rest of the time, it always speaks of it as being something that is inherent inside our fallen humanity and something that is also used by God. And so that's an interesting thing to me, because I know that for 25 years as a pastor, when someone sits across from me in my office and says, my life is falling apart, my immediate response was often, what did you do to cause it? And that really is not the biblical viewpoint on suffering. The biblical viewpoint on suffering is that however it's landed in your life, this can produce something in you. These light momentary troubles produce for us this far more eternal weight of glory. So that's the first thing. People think suffering is the punishment of God or something that we've earned through our own behavior. The second thing is that suffering is permanent, and it's just almost always temporary. It's almost always going to go somewhere. Even when suffering leads to death, as it did with my husband, it was temporary, and there was something far more eternal on the other side. And that's something that I've had to do to get myself through the hardest seasons of my life, is tell myself these two lines over and over again. In fact, I'm a runner. I love to run trails here in Bend, and I will sometimes run and just say over and over again, suffering is temporary and suffering produces. Suffering is temporary and suffering produces, because that's the other truth about it. Suffering always produces. And we may see some of what it's producing while we're in the middle of it. We may see none of what it's producing, but we will never see all of what it's producing until we get to the other side. And so here I am 5 years out from my husband's death, and I'm still seeing ways that it made me softer and stronger and more compassionate and more understanding and more credible. And it's changed, it's reduced my theology so much, but made it stronger and more expansive in the process. So I think those things, it's not wasted, it's not permanent, and it's not punishment.
Well, I can see you running the trail, and I'm a runner too, do the same thing. I feel like it's so refreshing to hear you say, I would make myself say these two things. And it's so true, right? Sometimes we have to really make our mouths speak truth that we have yet to even fully believe or hold on to, or we're trying to hold on to. And that's a rhythm and a ritual, I say, that God allows us to experience it. That's the intersection of faith, isn't it?
Yes. And I think our thoughts are sort of like a riderless horse. And I find that when I say something out loud, I'm getting back in the saddle. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to take this thought captive by saying a truth statement that I believe over and over into that thought. And that's been really, really beneficial. That's probably been the most beneficial thing for me about running, actually. I'm sure it's producing other kinds of things, but it really helps me with my thought life.
Yeah, there's some good right brain, left brain stuff going on there, isn't there, honey?
There is,
Okay,
yeah. Well, it's another podcast.
right. Well, let's talk a little about the anchoring in suffering. And you gave us a little tip about how you're doing that. Let's speak to those who need some anchoring today in the midst of their suffering and trials, especially even during this time of COVID and what it's looking like for people all across the spectrum. Some are really grieving loss. Some are in fear and anxiety of actually of being sick and having this virus and other things. Just what comes to your mind as you think about how you can help anchor people who are listening to this today and like you do on your runs?
I think the first step of anchoring and probably the most essential step is mindfulness, to understand, stop and discover what it is that I really am thinking, because our thoughts are so automatic and so honestly automatically negative. I think studies show between 75 and 85% of our thinking is negative, and it's on negative repeat. And so if I get into this mindset constantly, I'm going to get COVID and die, or someone I love is going to get it and die, and health is a real trigger for me since after the ALS battle, if I let that consume my thinking, I will always be spinning. I will always be anchorless and just, kind of tossed by the storm. But if I stop and say, what is the truth of this matter? Do I believe that God has all the days in his hands? Do I believe that he loves my people more than I love my people? Is it true that people could die from this virus? Yes, but what is the prevailing truth? And I want to anchor to the prevailing truth. And for me, the prevailing truth of my life has become, I am loved and held safe by God no matter what. I've struggled with this. I'm married again. I got married in July. And if my husband doesn't text me back in 15 minutes, I'm certain that he's died. Because in my world, husbands die. And so I've had to continually anchor to this prevailing truth. I am held safe in the love of God no matter what. And that's got to be my truth. And I literally do say it out loud over and over and over again. And I shoot it like a bullet into the lie of the enemy that says, you're always going to lose. You're always going to be disappointed. You're always going to have to live without. You're never going to be able to trust loving again. And so I shoot that truth into that lie until it lets go of me. And it's not sexy. It's not like fun. It's not easy, but it works. And so I have to go back to it and do the work. And I think we have this idea that once I said yes to Jesus, it's his job to anchor me. But really, I've got to be an active participant in that process. And when I am, I always find that he shows up and that he is more steady than I ever gave him credit for being.
So good. Well, one of the ways, the disciplines, the choosing to step in has been spending a few minutes in an app that you created and I think was inspired from some of the things you're sharing. But tell us about the Soul Space app. It has been a gift to my own soul, and I have been telling everyone about it. So why'd you create this app, and what exactly is it?
Yeah, this is an app that the mission statement is exactly that, anchoring our thoughts to the love of God. And it really was born through me and my partners. For me, it was in the days following my husband's death, I had this blank slate in front of me and I thought, who am I going to become? And so many thoughts of fear and confusion and so many voices inside my own heart said, just keep yourself safe, stay little, stay low, don't risk anything again. And I had to decide, no, what do I really want to become now with I've always called this part of my life part 2 of plan A. I don't think it's plan B. I think it's part 2 of plan A. And so what do I want this to become? And I found that the key in stepping out and saying yes to the plan of God was not in my actions or even my devotional studies or my career choices or whatever. It was in my thoughts. The battle was in my thoughts for every single day. And being willing to stop and say, what am I thinking right now? That's the first question. Second question, is it true? Third question, if it's not true, what do I anchor to that is truth? Because I look at so many people And again, my heart is for single moms, so especially single moms who are forming their decisions and their relationships out of thoughts that are not true. They are not. I see women connecting to relationships because their thoughts tell them this is my only chance. This is my only shot at it. And if they would stop and be mindful and put their thoughts in front of the love of God and say, what is your reality for me in this? Everything can change. So this app just takes 5 minutes a day, and we isolate one thought, and then we anchor it to a truth inside of the Word of God, which is unchanging. And it's just 5 minutes of quiet, listen, and do the work of saying, I'm gonna connect my thoughts to something that I know won't fail me. And then we also have some courses on it and some things. Yeah.
I just think as a trauma therapist, Bo, this is all I do day in, day out, is helping us to ground, to what I say, have our bodies catch up to where our mind and our soul want to go. But we've got to have truth to be driving in a direction of peace. And your app is just a beautiful combination because you do integrate body work of breath and imagery prayer, and really helping for someone, especially who maybe doesn't know a lot of truth or is swirling in their own thought life or in all the voices of the culture. It's just a really powerful grounding. So, and I love that you can go deeper. So thank you for this gift. And I think it's free and you can get it. Download it today. It's the Soul Space app.
Yeah, so premium content inside of the app is courses. We have a course on navigating loss of a spouse or a marriage. We have a course on Soul Care for New Moms, which I love. I wrote that thinking about all the hours I spent nursing my babies in the dark of night, thinking I'm never going to have a devotional life again. And because you feel like you have no time and no sleep, and how am I
true.
So we loved writing that course. And then there's a course on just developing a habit of gratitude. We've got some awesome kid stories and some kid meditation things. And we've got some fun lullabies that are good for both kids and grown-ups at night. And we're just constantly developing the app. We're a little bit obsessed right now with just how do we bring all kinds of beautiful ways for people to get to truth and for people to rein in the thoughts that create terror in their lives that doesn't need to control them. So it's been just the joy of my life. And yeah, it's soulspace.co.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Well, leading has its challenges. Just in talking with you, it's so fun to hear the ways in which you're leading from a place of authenticity, heart, and conviction, faith, love. And we know that if we can connect to leaders, and we can potentially impact the systems that are beneath them. And leaders are all types, right? I mean, if you have a following, we say you're a leader, and how you lead matters. So if you're a single mama, we say this a lot, you're leading, and really one of the most important organizations on the planet, the family unit. And if you're, at the top of an org chart, some enterprise, of course you're leading, but everything in between. And we'd like you to speak here to leaders today who need a reminder of what it looks like to keep going. And what have you learned as a seasoned leader that you wish you knew earlier in life?
That's just such a good, deep question. And I think I'm going to have to go back to what I said about being a single mom. As a leader, it's not as much about what I write or what I teach or what I speak or any of those things. It's about what I do with love and pain. And so that comes out as a leader, that comes out at an amplified volume. And so learning to let my words sit in front of Jesus for a while before they get out to the masses has been important, because I don't want them to cause pain. And so I think as leaders, especially when we get into an official leadership role, we tend to speak too fast and not understand the weight that our words carry. And I mean, we can err on the other side and speak too slow and not speak up when we need to. But overall, I love to follow a leader who I can trust their words. I can trust that what they're saying is true and that it's wise and that it's not going to change in 20 minutes. So that's been a big thing for me is to not just be an advocate and a voice for the gospel, but to also be an advocate for the hearts of humanity, and know that there's a way we can communicate truth that brings life, and there's a way we communicate truth that brings death. And so that's been a big part of my recent leadership journey. And it's kind of just maybe a microscopic part of the whole picture. But for me, it's such a big part of it that it's sort of what I'm stuck on. So I wish somebody would have told me that when I was just starting out. Be careful with your words. Make sure they're true. Make sure they're loving. Make sure they have God and humanity in the crosshairs, so that you're not causing damage in the name of love.
Good word to end on, Bo. Thank you. Thank you for just who you are. We're just grateful for your courage, your integrity, and that we can really see that you are living out of who you say you are, that you are being careful with those words, and you've lived a lot of life, a lot of things in your story have shaped those profound words you're saying right now. So thank you for being who you are. We know you're not perfect, but you're honest. And this is just really no small thing today in today's world. We're really looking for leaders who are walking with integrity. So thank you for being that kind of leader.
Yeah, good shepherd.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. It means the world to me.
Thank you for joining us in being a leader committed to shrinking the integrity gap between the values we espouse and the values we actually live out in practice.